Om Narayana Namo.
Om Narayana.
Om Madhuraya Namo.
And one more time.
Om
Om
Apavitra
Apavitra
Pavitrova
Pavitrova
Sarvavashtam
Sarvavassan
Gatopiva
Gatopiva
Yaspare
Yasmare
Pundari Kaksha
Pundarikaksham
Sabhaya Bhantara
Savaya Pyantara
Shuchi
Suchihi.
Shri Vishnu Shri Vishnu Shri Vishnu.
Okay?
Yes, Maharaj.
All right. So, all right. It's my turn. So,
You take Sankalp now or later?
what?
Sankalpa.
Oh yeah, do the Sankalpa first. You're supposed to do the Sankalpa before the Om Pavitra. Anyways, just do the Sankalpa.
Yeah. No, Maharaj, it depends. Because unless we're purified, we cannot take Sankalpa.
Anyway, all right.
Okay.
Usually the priest purifies himself first.
Yeah.
Then he does the Sankalpa. Then, anyway, that's the way Prabhupada did it.
Yeah.
Anyway, you do the Sankalpa.
You're not doing
What?
rice.
No, you.
You have the
Yeah.
Sankalpa?
I do Sankalpa.
You do the Sankalpa. It should be done in Sanskrit.
Yeah.
Do the Sankalpa in Sanskrit.
Pick up whatever is there. Pick up in your right hand.
Yeah, all of it.
All of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Matlab not the donor.
Everybody does it differently.
डाला
It's like this?
Yes, Maharaj.
उल्टे हाथ में डालो ऐसे रखो सीधे पैर पे सीधे पैर पे
अच्छा, सीधी पैर पे.
हाँ.
Right.
हरि ओम
Hari Om.
सत
That's it.
अद्य ब्राह्मणो
Aja Brahmano.
अद्य प्रार्थे
Radharadi.
श्वेतवरा कल्पे
Shaitamrada Kalpe.
वस्ताक्य
Vasudakya.
धन्वंतरे
Janbandhuri.
अष्टविंशति
Nurvyatati.
वस्य
Jivasya.
संध्यायाम
Sanjayam.
ब्रह्मविंशतो
Ramishito.
वर्तमानायाम
Vardhamayanam.
त्रयत्रिंशत्
Visha.
अधिकम
Harikam.
घोराब्द
Gaurabda.
संवत्सरे
Samvatore.
रवि
Ravi.
उत्तरायणे
Uttarayane.
माघ मासे
Magmase.
शिशिर ऋतु
Shuru.
शुक्ल पक्षे
Shukra Pakshe.
तिथो
Navami.
सोमवारान्वितायाम
Somvaram.
कृतिका
Kritika.
Krika.
नक्षत्र
Nakshatra.
Nakshatra.
संवृत्तायाम
Samitra.
Uttayam.
जम्बू द्वीपे
Jambu Dvipe.
खंडे
Bharat
Khande.
वेदीभूतस्य
Ite Vedbhutasya.
Sumero.
दक्षिणे
Dachine.
लवनार
Abhinav.
नवसोत्तरे
Ansutare.
कोने
Kone.
यमुनाय
Yamunaya.
दक्षिणे भागे
Dakshine.
Shirbagai.
श्री श्री गिरिराज गोवर्धन
Shishigiraj Govardhan.
सन्निधो
Sandigo.
गो ब्राह्मण वैष्णव
Go Brahmana Vaishnava.
प्रीति अंतरम
Priya.
शिला प्रभुपाद प्रीति अंतरम
Shritya.
Prityartham.
Tirpapa.
दीक्षा संस्कारम
Diksha Samskaram.
कर्म करिष्यामि
Karisha.
Namreshami.
you can leave it
Okay. And just give it to you?
Yes, please. Here, Maharaj. Give
What?
it to me.
All right.
Yes.
Everybody does the Sankalpa differently.
yeah
I've never seen it done like that before.
this is like
I've never seen that before. Where's that come from?
I've learned from Sri Vaishnavas.
Oh, the Sri Vaishnavas. That's the Sri Vaishnava Sankalpa. No wonder I didn't know it. Okay, so I think tomorrow is the disappearance day of Ramanujacharya. So,
Yeah.
and today I think is disappearance of Madhvacharya. Madhvacharya today. So anyway, so now we're Sri Vaishnavas. I didn't know that.
No, but this is okay.
Anyway, I mean,
I've always learned like this.
I mean, I've seen so many sankalpas and everybody does it differently. Okay, it's okay. As long as there's the chanting the holy name, everything's auspicious. So, Om Gana Timirandasha Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So today we have an initiation, a Harinam initiation. And so Krishna in the Gita is asked the question by Arjuna, you know, what happens, and I'm paraphrasing of course, because I like to paraphrase the Gita, what happens if someone doesn't make it in Krishna consciousness in this lifetime? And is he just lost completely? Because we know that when someone doesn't make it materially, you know, he loses what he has and then he has to start again fresh. It's something like that what's called the Myth of Sisyphus. I don't know if anyone's heard about it. We'll bring a little Western philosophy in here. So Sisyphus is a personality in Greek literature who was punished in such a way that he had to roll a stone up a hill. I don't know if you ever heard about this before. Maybe you did. You study these things. It's like the Yamaduta's punishment. It's actually in the Vedic literatures, it's the same thing. Yeah, he rolls a stone up a hill, and then the stone rolls down. He has to keep rolling it up and goes down, rolls up. So when one simply lives his or her life for material acquisitions, it's something like that. You struggle so hard in life to get education, to get trained up, to go to school, to get a job, and then at the end of life, and of course, take care of your children, and then when you get really old, your children put you in an old people's home, and they neglect you. You work your whole life, and then what do you get as a payment? And then at the end, as we know, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, that you lose everything. So Arjuna in the Gita is very concerned that spirituality will be something like that. That at the end of this life, you know, if you just didn't quite make it in Krishna consciousness, you will lose everything. And Krishna assures him. He says that there's two things that can happen for an aspiring transcendentalist. Two different things. Of course, he does say one who is good never meets with evil. But there's two things that can happen in the next life. And he doesn't have to see Yamaraj either. The interesting thing is that even if one chants the holy names, Namabas, he doesn't have to see Yamaraj. That's how powerful the holy names are. It's really interesting. Some devotees even have disagreed with me when I've said this. And even though it comes from Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the Harinam Chintamani, that even if a Muslim chants being chased by a boar, that means a big pig. If he chants Haram, that's Namavas chanting, then all the karma's gone, even the Parabdha karma. People don't like to hear this, especially astrologers don't like to hear this, because that means they wouldn't make much money. Because astrologers, they want to make money, and if you tell them, by chanting Hare Krishna, the Parabdha karma is gone, or as Prabhupada said, every time you chant and dance and clap your hands, the lines change. The astrologers say, no, it doesn't work like that. I've had many arguments with astrologers about this. But I am simply quoting from Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the Harinam Chintamani, where he cites a conversation between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Haridas Thakur. And Haridas Thakur is acting sort of like the teacher at that particular point, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is acting as the student. That means he's asking what we call rhetorical questions. Rhetorical questions means when you ask a question, you know the answer, and you're trying to get someone else to show you whether they also know the answer. That's called a rhetorical question. So, anyway, so I have faith in the holy names. I mean, whatever else I am, I have faith in the holy names, and I have faith in Prabhupada. That simply one-time chanting, then you're on the spiritual path, and then, you know, swapam apyasya dharma shatrayate mahato bhayat, as Krishna says in the Gita, that even a little advancement will free one from the most dangerous type of fear. Of course, Prabhupada in the purport says the most dangerous type of fear is becoming an animal in your next life, or less than an animal. So anyway, so if one is engaged in devotional service, then his future is very bright. His or her future is very bright. And Krishna says one or two things happen, at least to people who are practicing Krishna consciousness. One thing is they can go up to the heavenly planets and enjoy like crazy. See all the apsaras. See the Bharatanatyam dancing, Kathakali dancing. I mean, I've never been there, so I don't know. So whatever they do, they go to the heavenly planets, and then after they go into the heavenly planets, they take birth in a wealthy family And taking birth in a wealthy family is advantageous, not because one gets to enjoy material things, but because one has the free time to engage in spiritual life. You know, many times we see people who are so much struggling just to eat or just to have a place to live. I mean, it's really heavy, this material world. So that's one destination for people who engage in Krishna consciousness. Another destination is for those who are very advanced or more advanced, is they take birth in a family of Vaishnavas. So we have two devotees who are taking initiation who are born in a family of Vaishnavas, right? That's very auspicious. So that means, unless you're pure devotees already, and I'm not going to guess at that, then that means you were very advanced Vaishnavas in your last life. And you're just continuing to take up from where you left off to reach spiritual perfection. And of course, that spiritual perfection is very interesting too. Spiritual perfection is not liberation. Some people think spiritual perfection is to go back to home, back to God. Of course, that's very nice. We're not denying it. But spiritual perfection is to simply be interested in Krishna's pleasure. That's going back to Godhead is actually a byproduct of spiritual perfection. Does everybody understand the point? It's a byproduct, because spiritual perfection is simply, you know, as Lord Chaitanya says, Krishna, you can crush me by your embrace. Krishna, you can leave me brokenhearted. You're completely free to do anything and everything. My worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Of course, that's the last Shikshashtaka, for those who don't know the Shikshashtaka. So, in the last chapter of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada gives a wonderful translation of this last verse. And he talks about how Radharani is saying that even if Krishna is a debauchee. Now, for those who don't know what a debauchee is, a debauchee is someone who, I hate to say this, anyway, he's not faithful to his wife. I'm not saying that that's good, that's bad. If Krishna does it, it's good. Because whatever Krishna does is good. As I often said to the devotees, Krishna does not set a good example. We do not follow, in spite of Krishna saying, Yad yada charati shreshtas tata devetaro janaha, Krishna doesn't follow that verse. Does he? I mean, as far as I know. I mean, he's setting an example what it means to be God, but not for us to follow. Yad yada charati shreshtas tata devetaro janaha. So, anyway, so Radharani, or Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, is speaking on behalf of Radharani in this last chapter of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Prabhupada's commentaries and translations are really amazing. That even if Krishna is a debauchee, which means he's not faithful to me, I will still love him, I'll still serve him. And then the example is given also in that regard of, in this Markandeya Purana, there's the story of the chaste lady, you know the story? Of the man, her husband, had leprosy. I think most of you know that story. And her husband wanted to associate with a prostitute, and she just served the prostitute. And then finally, finally the prostitute agreed. I mean, that's pretty hard for her to agree to associate with a leprous man. But anyway, the prostitute agreed. And then on the way to the prostitute, the man realized how chaste and wonderful his wife was. And then, on the way back home, what happened is that the man inadvertently touched Markandeya Rishi. And Markandeya Rishi got so angry with the man, I mean, I'd get angry too, if someone who had leprosy touched me. I mean, I was angry in the airport when, because you know the Chinese thing with the coronavirus?
Yeah.
Some Chinese person touched me in the airport. I was getting almost ready to scream, you know? You know, what to speak of leprosy. So Markandeya Rishi got very angry, And Markandeya Rishi cursed this man to die before the rising of the sun the next day. And so his wife was so chaste, she said, guess what, buddy? The sun's not rising tomorrow. And so, guess what? Suryadev had a vacation. This story actually is part of the Ramayana story too, that probably none of you know this story. But I'll tell the story, since it's something that probably no one here knows. Surya had a vacation, and Aruna, his chariot driver, had a vacation too. You know, Aruna, the chariot driver. And so Aruna, he thought, on my vacation, because don't have to drive the sun anymore. He said, I'm going to go see the dancing performance that Indra has in his palace. You heard the story? You might have heard the story, because you heard me tell it before. So he goes to Indra's palace to see the Apsaras, or whatever, dancing. And they say, you're not allowed in. And he thinks, how can I get in? And using his mystic powers, he changes himself into Aruni. Aruni? And then he goes in, and because he's the sun god's charioteer, he's quite a brilliant girl, quite pretty. So he goes in, and Indra loses all interest in the Apsaras, and he sees him, or her, in that particular case. And Indra says, hey, come with me. And as a result, very interestingly enough, Bali was born. Not Bali Maharaj, no.
Bali.
Bali. Sugriva's brother. So then,
Bali.
what?
Bali, yeah.
In the Ramayana, it's a Ramayana story. And so then Arun, he changed himself back into a male and thinks, oh my God, what did I do with my life? He goes back to see the sun god, and the sun god says, where were you? And he says, you don't want to know. And the sun god says, yes, I do want to know. And sun god says, I want to see that form. And he changes himself back into Aruni, and as a result, Sugriva is born.
Wow.
That's why they're half brothers. They're brothers, but not full brothers, half brothers. Anyway, interesting story.
Wow, I never heard this.
It's a new story. So anyway, going back to the Markandeya Purana, so that lady, she was able to stop the rising of the sun by her chastity. So let's relate it back to a devotee's position. Of course, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that's related very much to Radharani's attitude towards Krishna. And actually, that should be our attitude. That is actually the goal. And going back to Godhead, you know, Lord Chaitanya also prays Manmani Janmanishvare, Bhavatad Bhakti Ahoyi Tuki Tvoye, Janmani Janmanishvare, Bhavatad Bhakti Ahoyi Tuki Tvoye, that I can take birth after birth. Or Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Kita Janma Hoy Atatuya Das. You know, that I can be born as a worm or an insect as long as I'm your devotee. As long as I have the association of your devotees in a house of your devotees. So, anyway, that's what we're aspiring for. Anyabi Lashata Shunyam Jnana Karma Navritam Anukul Yena Krishnana Shilanam Bhakti Uttamam, as Rupa Goswami states. Shunya means like zero. So, not to have any other desire than to serve Krishna, to please Krishna, to serve Krishna, to do what Krishna wants, and finally, to do it joyfully. You know, this is a very high standard. You know, many times we do our service, but we're not so joyful at it. We just say, oh, I got to do it. This is my duty. You know, we have duties to do. Or many times we don't do our service. Not many times, hopefully. And many times do the opposite of what Krishna wants. And we know. So, if one is a pure devotee. So that's really what we're aspiring for, life after life. Therefore, you know, Krishna says so many things in the Bhagavad Gita. He says it's very rare, manushanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhye, etc., mahonam janmanamante, etc. that after many births, it's very rare. Samahatma Sadurlabha. This is a very rare thing to have. So it takes lifetimes to reach perfection. Now, of course, I'm not trying to get you all depressed. Because you say, oh, back to home, back to Godhead. You know, that's the ISKCON motto, isn't it? Back to home, back to Godhead, last life. When I first joined the movement, I thought, you know, I would, after 2 weeks, I had realized my spiritual identity. And then after you've been around a while, you realize it's pretty hard. It's not that easy. So, how do you do it? And actually, there's a secret to quick success. Mahat Seva Mahorvi Mukdes. You know, anyway, there's so many verses like that too. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. That if one actually serves His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada, his society, see, you know, because we can say, well, I serve Prabhupada Prasadam every day, or Bhagavad Prasadam. That's okay. You know, we should offer Bhoga to Krishna and Prabhupada, through Prabhupada's mercy. But also, to somehow or other serve Srila Prabhupada by pleasing him, by helping bring more people to Krishna consciousness. Now, I observed that when I was with Srila Prabhupada several times. One time is that when Prabhupada was with my dear godbrother, dear friend, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, that when Prabhupada heard how Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj had risked his life jumping from one train to another in the previous Soviet Union to avoid the KGB. I don't know if any of you know what the KGB is. You don't. KGB was the Russian, and it still is, the Russian Secret Service. And that's, Mr. Putin was actually one of the big members of the KGB, and he probably still is. I don't know what they call the KGB nowadays. But anyway, it's the Russian Secret Service. And in Russia, people would disappear. You know, even in South America, they have this desaparecidos, right? In certain countries, people just disappear.
We have raw. R-A-W raw.
Yeah, so they just disappear if they get in trouble with the government. So he was distributing Prabhupada's books in the Soviet Union at the universities, you know, book orders or standing orders as Prabhupada wanted. And he described to me how the KGB would come on the train to check to see if anyone was on the train who shouldn't have been on the train. And the train was just in the middle of the night in the cold in Siberia or somewhere like that. He had to jump off the train in between villages. You know, can you imagine doing that? And then when another train passed, he had to jump on another train. Can you imagine the courage he showed? And then, anyway, when Prabhupada heard that, and Prabhupada was so pleased, Prabhupada, you know, embraced him. Now, Prabhupada really didn't use physical affection that much with the devotees. So from time to time he did, but generally it wasn't, you know, he's not like us, you know, just hugging all the time. Prabhupada was not a hugger. Nowadays, of course, it's very common in ISKCON, you hug everybody. So, but Prabhupada hugged him, and Prabhupada was so pleased. Another time, when I was with Prabhupada, some of you may have heard this story before, I was speaking to Prabhupada about our Sankirtan party. And Prabhupada had just seen pictures of a temple that had just opened. I'm not going to mention what temple it was. But Prabhupada was just very nonchalant, very just saying, oh, very nice, very nice. So then I talked to Prabhupada how in the temple that I was in charge of, because I'm bragging, so the temple that I was in charge of had distributed 30 or 35,000 Bhagavad Gitas in 1 month. Hardbound Bhagavad Gitas. Pretty good. And we had defeated Radha Damodar. And Prabhupada's eyes opened wide. And then I said to Prabhupada, pointing out our head Sankirtan devotee, I said, he distributed 10,000 of those in 1 month. One devotee. The Prabhupada said, he has the mercy of Krishna. And I said, I didn't say anything. I was envious. I was thinking, what about me? I didn't say that. I said, what about, I'm thinking, what about me? You know, I organize the Sankirtan. You know, I'm the boss here. You know, I'm responsible. Prabhupada looked, he understood what I was thinking. Prabhupada said, oh, you all have the mercy of Krishna. And then Prabhupada gave the ultimate zinger. He said, but it's just like the gopis. They have special mercy. Anyway, so it's a famous conversation Prabhupada had. And then, so it was so interesting. So I understood that if one actually dedicates and risks his life for pleasing Prabhupada and spreading this movement, one gets special mercy. I understood. You know, it took me a few years to understand that. And then I recounted Prabhupada's own example. That Prabhupada, at the age of 70, and that's pretty old. You know, I can say that because I am 71. Just the thought of going across the ocean in an ocean liner, not an ocean liner, a steamboat, you know, freight ship, without any food and without any money, forget it. Of course, if Prabhupada asked, I'd probably do it. But anyway, but look what Prabhupada did. Prabhupada risked everything. Abhaya sattva sham shuddhi jnana yoga vavastatihi. So Prabhupada, being free of fear, risked everything, left everything to please Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So that's really how one achieves, you know, pure devotional service, because it's very difficult. Very, very difficult to come to that stage. Because one cannot get bhakti from Krishna, as Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur states. Bhakti comes from Krishna's devotees. Bhakti is independent. So one has to please Krishna's devotees. I mean, obviously we all chant Yasha Prasada, Bhagavat Prasada, Yasha Prasada, Nagati Katopi. So, but by pleasing Prabhupada in this way, you know, being with Prabhupada, I can say that Prabhupada was most pleased by bringing souls to his lotus feet. You know, another story about Tamal Krishna Maharaj. Prabhupada went to America one time to bring Tamal Krishna Maharaj back to India to help him with the management, because nobody in India could manage, none of the Western devotees, except for TKG. And TKG had a plan. He knew how to convince Prabhupada to give up Prabhupada's plan. He brought all these new devotees in front of Prabhupada, each with a flower. And Prabhupada said, okay, you stay. So Prabhupada changed his mind. You know, the order of the spiritual... Tamal Krishna Maharaj understood how to change the order of the spiritual master by pleasing the spiritual master. Very interesting. So, anyway, that was my realization, and Prabhupada, of course, set that particular example too, how you become to the stage of pure devotional service. Of course, we all understand that you have to chant your rounds and avoid the 10 offenses, and I think you all know the 10 offenses. I mean, I guess I should mention them because Prabhupada always mentioned them, but I'm sure everybody knows them, and I'll say them real quickly because I'm supposed to mention them. You know, considering the names of the demigods, like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, equal to or independent of the holy name of Lord Vishnu. I'm sure none of you do that. I mean, I don't think we'll find a secret altar to Durga or in your house. I mean, you can respect the demigods. Also, it's considered offensive to disrespect the demigods. So if you really want to worship the demigods, put them on a lower altar, a lower level. Or like in Bhubaneswara, take the remnants of Lord Jagannath and you bring it to Lord Shiva in Bhubaneswara, which is, Bhubaneswara is Gupta Kashi. So, and then the second offense is to blaspheme those who, first offense is to blaspheme, the first offense is to blaspheme those who have dedicated their lives. I got it backwards. to dedicate their lives to propagating the holy name of the Lord. Second offense is to consider the names of the demigods like Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, equal to or independent of the holy name of Lord Vishnu. Third offense is to disobey the order of the spiritual master. Fourth offense is blaspheming the Vedic literatures or the literatures in pursuance of the Vedic version. Next offense is to consider the glories of Hare Krishna imagination. Next one is to give some perverted interpretation. They're Shastric interpretations. Next offense is to commit sins on the strength of chanting. Next offense is to consider chanting like one of the rituals in the Vedic literature. Just like we have different rituals in Krishna consciousness, they're not equivalent to chanting. You know, wearing a dhoti is a ritual, or you have your nice little turban, that's a ritual. But you're not going to go back to Godhead by wearing turbans. You're going to go back to Godhead by chanting Hare Krishna. Or even the fire sacrifice is, you know, when we chant Hare Krishna, it's nice, but all these other stuff, you know, bananas, or the sankalpa, or this and that, nothing should be considered to be equivalent or even close or billion miles away from the chanting of Hare Krishna. So this is the Yuga Dharma, of course, is Krishna Nam Sankirtan. So we have to really differentiate the rituals, which are useful if they help us remember Krishna. Sometimes the rituals help us forget Krishna. I'll give you an example. I mean, I was talking to one devotee, him, and he was talking about doing all the mudras and everything like that, and he said, I can't even remember Krishna when I'm doing them. I said, then don't do the mudras when you do arti, you know, don't do them. And sometimes you find people who are doing arti and all they're doing is counting how many circles around a big circle, and they forget they're offering to Krishna, because Krishna says, Bhakti Mama Bhijanati. He doesn't say, circle Mama Bhijanati, anyway, whatever the word is in Sanskrit. You know, so the whole idea is, I mean, just like that devotee who was offering banana peels instead of bananas to Krishna because he was so much in love with Krishna, and Krishna accepted it. Isn't it? So the whole point is bhakti, or, I mean, that's the whole point. Of course, we don't want to violate the principles or regulate or rituals, but really one has to understand to accept everything favorable for being Krishna consciousness, and don't accept those things that take you away from Krishna. Very important. There's Lord Chaitanya's first two surrendering practice or principles. Next offense, of course, is to preach the glories of the Lord to those who are faithless. You know, faithless means that those who will blaspheme or criticize what you're saying. Therefore, when you're preaching or sharing Krishna consciousness with others, you have to be able to understand how much they can take. You know, you may be able to just tell someone, chant Hare Krishna and I'll tell you later what it means. Or just like, I have one disciple who just goes around the UK getting everybody to chant Gauranga. She doesn't tell what it is. She says, here's the magic word, Gauranga. And they all go, Gauranga, 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 Gauranga. And ultimately, you know, they will become devotees because she's starting them on their path. That's called Agyata Sukriti. So, anyway, and then the final offense is to not have complete faith in the chanting of the holy name and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions of the matter. I actually just want to add that it's not offensive to have material attachments. We should be trying to get rid of them. It's called the clearing stage of chanting. But, you know, having them, you know, welcome to the world. If you all didn't have any material attachments, probably you wouldn't be getting engaged tomorrow. So, or maybe it's some pure devotional service I haven't figured out yet. You know, so, I mean, probably you'd be an avaduta or something like that if you didn't have any attachments to this world. And probably if I didn't have any, no, thanks. I don't take water while I'm speaking. If I didn't have any material attachments, I probably wouldn't have a phone here or something like that. But anyway, or all the paraphernalia that I have. So anyway, but we should become detached from them and be ready to engage them all in Krishna's service. You know, manasadeha geha yoga shimorapiyam tuya pade Nanda Kishore. That's really important. And also, Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions that inoffensive chanting is actually at the root of all the other offenses. So one should, inattentive chanting got it wrong. Inattentive chanting is at the root of all the other offenses. So we should be attentive while we're chanting. How can you be attentive? Remember why you're chanting. Have a sankalpa before you chant. Not necessarily a technical sankalpa like you know with all this other stuff, but just think before I chant. Are you recording? Hey.
I'm gonna go tell him.
What?
Never mind.
No, don't worry about the sound. This is part of Braj. This is part of the Braj mood. So keep recording. So anyway, we're talking about you can't stop people from chanting Hare Krishna on the street here. So anyway, so how do you be attentive when chanting Hare Krishna? Very easy. You have a sankalpa. Why am I chanting? What's the reason I'm chanting? What's my intention? What am I trying to accomplish? And think about it. You know, why? I want to become an eternal servant of Krishna. Oh Krishna, please take me. Please take this sinner weeping and weeping to your lotus feet. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur prays in his different prayers. Gopinath, Mama Navedana Shuno. I have no good qualities. I'm free of all good qualities. I'm full of bad qualities. Please take this sinner weeping and weeping to your lotus feet. Isn't it? So you find many of the songs of the acharyas are in the mood of lamentation. So before we chant, we should be thinking like that. You know, how devoid I am, much devoid I am of bhakti. And please, Krishna, help me, save me. Ainanda tanuja kinkaram patita mam vishame bhavambudo kripaya tapapadam bhagaja stita duli sadrasam vichintaya. I'm your eternal servant, but somehow or other I've fallen down to this horrible ocean of birth and death, so please fix me up as one of the atoms or specks of dust at your lotus feet. So if we think like that before we chant, then we'll be chanting with more attention and tears will come to our eyes. And tears don't come from your eyes to your eyes. You're doing something wrong. You have the wrong intention. Your heart is steel framed, as the Bhagavatam says. Okay, and so I guess that's the 10 offenses. And then of course you all know, study the Shikshashtaka. The Shikshashtaka teaches us how to chant purely. And specifically, I advise studying the last chapter in the Chaitanya Charitamrita to understand the real internal mood of Lord Chaitanya when he was actually reciting the Shikshashtaka. Not simply the exoteric translation, but the esoteric translation of the Shikshashtaka. And that's the meaning of initiation. You know, taking vows and all that other stuff. You know, chanting 16 rounds, following I don't think I need to tell you about the 4 regular principles. I mean, you're Vaishnavas, so I don't need to mention that. Sometimes it's actually offensive to tell people about the 4 regulated principles. I remember several times, I was giving initiation to different ladies who were like 90 years old, never broken the regulated principles in their lives. And to get them to say no illicit sex is ridiculous. You know, here's this 80-year-old lady, you know. What are you bound to do? No illicit sex, no intoxication. You know, so you know the regulated principles. The regulated principles of freedom, they free you from being controlled by your senses. By being the servant of your senses, instead of being Godas, you can be Goswami, the controller of your senses, and let Krishna, Govinda, control your senses and please you. Okay? So, I guess that's the little lecture. So now we can have the name giving, right?
Take out the old beads.
Oh yeah, the neck beads. You're not filming? Yeah, but there's a lecture you're supposed to be. I'm on Facebook, so this is recorded anyway. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So I was actually thinking of some good names. we have one Gato Kach here, so in the back of you. That's his nickname, it's not his initiating, don't worry. I don't think I'd ever give that as an initiated name. Although it is, Gato Kach is a devotee.
Yeah.
He's a good devotee too. He saved Arjuna, right? He sacrificed his life to save Arjuna. That's pretty nice. Okay, who's first? Who's older? You're older? Okay, you ready? First, what you do is you offer well, he has to offer obeisance to Prabhupada and Giri Raj, and then you come around. The red bead bag. Okay. Gauranga. So you come from a very nice family. You're very fortunate.
Yes.
I hope in the next life I can be born in a nice family like that. So I guess we do have to ask about the regular principles. How many rounds every day do you chant?
16.
16 minimum. What I do on Ekadasi, when no one else is around to bother me, I do chant 64.
I'll try.
But no, I'm not saying it's not an instruction.
Okay.
I'm just saying this is what I do. So an Ekadasi is a time for increasing the chanting and hearing. It's not simply a time for fasting. The fasting is secondary. The whole point of Ekadasi is to increase bhakti, because that's actually one of the mothers of bhakti is Ekadasi. Okay, so you get the beads with your right hand. All right. I guess I should ask you about the 4 regular principles. Probably
No sex, no intoxication, no gambling, and no meat.
Okay.
Yes.
Chocolate is all right though.
Okay. He likes that.
See. Anyway, get the beads with your right hand.
Yes.
And your name now is Rishabhanu Das. Haribo. Rishabhanu Das ki jai. Of course, you know who Rishabhanu is. Yeah.
Haribo.
That's a nice name, isn't it?
Amazing name, Maharaj.
Rishabhanu.
Amazing.
Perfect.
So when you get married, if you have any daughters, you know what you have to call your daughter. Nandu Lal. Oh, here's your bead bag. Someone can give him his bead bag. Okay, and next candidate is Nandu Lal. He's also from a very great Vaishnava family. His family in Dubai hosts so many Vaishnavas every week. They have a big house. A very big house. How many meters is the house? How many meters is your house?
I think same as. You can say about
What?
maybe more than 40 cents. It's like, like.
As big as this property?
No, almost. No. From your sea, this area.
So they host Vaishnavas every week, hundreds of Vaishnavas. So you're from a very wonderful Vaishnava family too. I mean, both devotees. So, amazing. That means, as I said before, you're very advanced in devotional service. So take advantage. Actually, another point is that even if one is very advanced in devotional service, you have to be very careful of Krishna's illusory energy. Like Krishna even had a son who was a very good boy, but because of bad association, he became a demon. You know the story? Banasura, Bomasura. He became a demon because of bad association. And he had a fantastic mother, Bhumi, and a fantastic father, Varaha. So, just be careful. This material world is dangerous. Padam padam yad vi padam natesham. It's danger at every step. Not only material danger, but there's spiritual danger at every step. So, what are the 4 regular principles?
No illicit sex, no movement, no gambling.
And no intoxication. All right. That means no tea. Herbal tea is all right. As long as it doesn't have caffeine in it. And what's that?
Green tea?
Green tea, we'll talk about that later. That has a little caffeine in it, you know.
Without caffeine.
Oh, you can get it without caffeine? Without caffeine. It was interesting when Prabhupada, because devotees were very attached to drinking teas, like herbal teas. So they would always make herbal teas, and Prabhupada said, what is that? Why are you taking all the tea all the time? Prabhupada really didn't like tea because he saw people were so addicted to it, and especially his wife was so addicted to it. You know the story.
Yeah.
She sold his Bhagavatams for tea biscuits. So Prabhupada, anytime someone mentioned tea, like Prabhupada, it was like traumatic for Prabhupada. So even if devotees were taking herbal tea, so one time devotees, several times this happened, devotees were taking herbal tea, and they said to Prabhupada, but we're sick, Prabhupada, we're taking this for our health. And Prabhupada said, okay, I will give you tea to take for your health. And he made this thing that we call in ISKCON a Brahmastra. You know what I'm talking about? Some of you new devotees don't know what it is. What it was a ton of ginger and hot chili peppers. And like, you squeeze some lemons in it and everything like that. And you would take it and steam would come out of your ears when you took it. And you got better really quickly. So that was Prabhupada's authorized tea, called a Brahmastra. No one's heard about that before? You must have heard about that, yeah. We used to always take it in ISKCON, the Brahmastra. So anyway, so the 4 regular principles, and how many rounds every day? 16 rounds every day, minimum, and you know, if you can do more in Ekadasi, and I try to do 64 in Ekadasi. You know, some Ekadasis. Your life will change when you do 64 rounds. You actually will find that when you do 64 rounds, then you'll think that 16 is just the warm-up. You know, 64 is actually our Vaishnava standard. 16 is just a concession for all of us. But actually, if we're preaching, Prabhupada just did 16, because he was preaching Krishna consciousness. It's different. So, the beads with your right hand. So your name now is Nanda Das. Nanda Das ki jai.
Nanda Das.
Yeah, Nanda. That's a nice name too. What? Previously he was Nandalal, Nanda. Pretty nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nanda. That's Sanskrit. Because you speak Hindi, you eliminate the A.
Both parties.
Now we simply need Radharani. And Lalita, Vishaka, and the rest of the gopis.
They won't be too far away, I'm sure.
We got Krishna Kanta there. And we got what? And we got, yeah, that's Radharani's name. And we got Gatokach from from the Mahabharata. That's Rasabas, you know. What's Gatokach doing in Braj? All right, so enough humor. Okay, all glories Prabhupada. So let's continue. Yeah, they do do your thing. Fire sacrifice and everything. Where is this?
Start chanting.
Hari Om. ॐ तद्विष्णो परमं पदं सदा पश्यन्ति सूर्यो देवेव चक्षुराततं तद्विप्रासो बिन्दवो जाग्रीवांसा समीदन्ते विष्णोर्यत् परमं पदम् ॐ हरे कृष्णा
कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
ॐ हरे कृष्णा
कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे
ॐ हरे कृष्णा
कृष्णा
कृष्णा हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे ॐ कृष्णा वै सच्चिदानंद घन कृष्णायादि पुरुष कृष्णा पुरुषोत्तम कृष्णा हौ कर्मादि मूलम कृष्णा सह सर्व